What's up, Achievers? Jason here, and this is going to be your squat mobility breakout. So this is going to be stretches and mobility drills that are specifically geared towards improving your squat depth and also prime you and prep you if you happen to be squatting that day. All right, now the reason why squatting can be so challenging is because it's so demanding on so many different joints and muscle groups throughout the body. And that could be your feet, your ankles, your knees, your hips, your core, your T-spine, your shoulders, and everything else in between. All these different factors come into play when you're trying to achieve a deep squat position. Now, some of the drills that I'm going to teach you today are going to be addressing things like ankle mobility, hip flexibility, and things like that. Some of them is also going to be addressing stability. So we're going to go through some core stability drills. We're going to go through some squat patterning drills to help tie everything together. All right, so what I want you to do is just start off on all fours. You can be on all fours in this quadruped position. You can get your chest up. You're going to look straight ahead. And then from here, you're going to rock all the way back towards your heels and then rock all the way forward. Now, the reason why this is so important for a squatting pattern is because we're moving throughout the hips without moving at the lower back or the spine, okay? So doing your best to keep that chest tall and proud and looking straight ahead, and that's going to really prevent you from dumping at the lower back like so, okay? So get your chest tall and proud, looking straight ahead as you rock back and forth. Now from there, what I want you to do is just stay in that exact same position, but widen your stance out with your knees. So bring your knees out a little bit wider, drop down to your forearms for me. Again, keep that chest nice and tall and proud, look straight ahead. And now I want you to rock back all the way towards your heels and then rock all the way forward. All the way back towards your heels and all the way forward. And this is just a good way to open up the inner thighs, the hips, to allow for you to drop down low into your deep squat position. Now feel free to explore here. You can either do reps like I'm demonstrating here, or you can pause at that very bottom position and you can kind of pry yourself deeper and deeper, shift from side to side, just exploring different ranges of motion, different angles that might feel tight, and also just feels good in general. Okay, so again, iso holds or rocking back and forth. Let's get a couple more of those. And then from there, what I want you to do is come back up into this quadruped position, knees under hips, hands under shoulders. This time I want you to stick one leg off to the side, and I want this leg perfectly straight. And this is going to really put a lot of stretch on your inner thigh, your adductor. Get that chest up tall, look straight ahead. I want you to sit all the way back towards your heel, and then come all the way forward. Go back and forth. Again, same concepts apply to all these rocking drills. Keep that chest up tall, looking straight ahead. Good. And then from there, we're going to switch sides. So back to the middle, stick your other leg off to the side, and then drop back towards your heels, rock all the way forward, and sit back towards your heels. All right, we're just going to get a few more, and then we'll transition into what we call our 90-90 hip switches. Okay, so for 90-90 hip switches, what I want you to do is get your front shin angle at about 90 degrees and the back shin angle at about 90 degrees as well. And from there, you're just gonna do your best to try to get as square as possible over to this front hip. And now from here, you've got a couple different options. You can either have your hands on the floor as support, or you can get your hands off the floor as an unsupported version. So I'll start with my hands supported. I'm gonna switch and transition into a 90-90 position on the other side. And again, really finishing through. If I just kind of stay here, it's not really putting as much stretch on my front hip as well as my back hip as it could be. So really get into that and then bring it back. Again, stay supported if you'd like, and go forward. And then from there, if you'd like, you can go unsupported, hands up in the air, and that just demands just a little bit more stability and a little bit more movement awareness here. If you feel comfortable and you want to go even a little bit deeper, feel free to lean over that front hip, and that'll really get into that hip external rotator there. You might be slipping and sliding all throughout the mat, and that's totally fine, totally normal. All right, perfect. Now from there, we're gonna go into some ankle mobility. Ankle mobility is gonna be key. A lot of people ask about, should my knees go over my toes during a squat? And the answer is definitely yes. That's totally normal and it's really functional. So when you're in the bottom of a squat position, if your knees can't get over your toes, what's gonna happen is your body's gonna just start to tip backwards and your weight shift is way too far back, and eventually your body's just gonna stop the range of motion, probably have you butt wink as well to get down that low. So in order to improve your ankle mobility, we're gonna show you one of these drills, okay? So you're gonna get into this kneeling position like so. I want you to get your foot forward, and I want you to grab the toes of your foot with your right hand and the heel of your foot with your left hand. And from here, what I want you to do is glide your knee as far over your pinky toe as possible while keeping your foot straight, while keeping that heel pinned down to the floor. And from there, again, really trying to drive forward as much as possible, and that's gonna create a lot of mobility and motion in that ankle joint. And then bring it back. Let's keep going back and forth. Now, the reason why we like the pinky toe over, let's say, the big toe is because it helps to preserve a good arch in that foot. The more that knee is pointing inwards, the more that arch is going to collapse, and the more you're going to compensate with a collapsed foot rather than actually driving motion through that ankle joint. So again, we like that pinky toe direction. Now from here, again, you can either go repetitions or you can hold. And you can even place your hand on top of the knee to get even a little bit more range of motion. Perfect. Let's hold that for a couple more seconds and then we'll switch sides. Now you might feel your ankle, you might feel your Achilles, you might feel your calf. All these things are related and can contribute to stiffer ankles. And so whichever you feel is totally fine, totally acceptable. And let's bring it back, let's switch sides. So we've got your left foot forward like so. You're gonna grab your left toes with your left hand, grab your left heel with your right hand, and then from there again, driving that knee as far over your pinky toe as possible to create that ankle mobility so that it helps to translate when you're trying to get down lower into your squat. And this also just helps to prepare you for the day's lift. And so let's go back and forth, or iso holds, whichever one feels good for you. All right, so I'm gonna hold here. I'm gonna press down on my knee here just to get extra leverage. And I'm feeling a pretty good Achilles stretch here. Let's hold for a few more seconds. And then we're gonna move on. Awesome, okay. Now we're gonna go into our Spider-Man lunge. So what I want you to do is get into a push-up position. And then from here, you're gonna glide your left foot as close to the outside of your left hand as you can. And now from here, what you're trying to think about is lengthening that back leg and then keeping this knee pushed off to the side. And this is called a Spider-Man lunge. All I want you to do is hang out here for 1 second, drop your forearm towards the floor. It doesn't have to hit. And then reach that arm back up towards the ceiling. Point that thumb back. Really helps you to open up. And then bring it back down. We're gonna switch sides. So this time, right foot forward. That foot is pointing straight. You're trying to push that knee out to the side, and you're trying to lengthen this back leg before you drop this forearm down and before you reach up towards the ceiling. Now, one thing you'll notice is as you're going through the Spider-Man lunge, and as you might see in this video, if you check out this bottom position here of my front leg, it's very similar to what the bottom position of a squat might look like. So stay in your Spider-Man and keep doing your rotations. But if you check this out, in the bottom of my squat, it's a very similar position of deep hip flexion and hip mobility. All right, so this is why it really correlates to your squat pattern. Get one more on each side. Add that rotation in for good measure. And then we'll stand up and actually start to work the squat pattern. All right, perfect. You're gonna stand back up. Now we're gonna go into our toe touch squat pry, it's called. Okay, so what I want you to do is get your arms up overhead. And from here, I want you to sit your hips back, touch your toes, and you're gonna drop yourself down as low as possible, pushing your knees out to the sides getting that chest up tall, and you're going to shift from side to side and really exploring what feels good, if any areas are specifically tight, just hanging out there. And once you feel ready to, what I want you to do is place your hands back on your toes, come up into your toe touch, and then stand up tall again, reach up overhead. All right, we're gonna do that again. Come down, touch your toes, drop your hips down, elbows between the knees, drive those knees out, hands together like so, chest up tall, and shift from side to side. Again, finding what feels good, really exploring different ranges of motion, different angles. If one place feels especially tight, just hang out there for a couple seconds before transitioning. Now your feet can spin out a bit. They can be perfectly straight, whatever feels good for you. What you'll notice is if you have tighter ankles, limited ankle mobility, what you could do in order to achieve a better position is just spin your feet out a little bit. And that might help as well. And that's totally fine, totally acceptable. Just going back and forth like that. Now, even with your feet really flared out like this and in a decent position, but you feel like your heels are lifting up, in this case, what we recommend is actually using a heel lift, okay? So I'll show a video within this to kind of demonstrate what that looks like, but a heel lift can really help as well. It's not cheating, it's just helping to groove your squat pattern and meeting yourself where you're at, okay? We'll come back up, stand up tall. This time, we're gonna increase the demand a little bit. Touch your toes, drop down low, and this time, instead of prying, what I want you to do is push out against your left knee here, and then reach your arm up towards the ceiling, really opening up that T-spine, that shoulder, bring it back, and you're gonna switch sides. So this really helps to prepare you if you're doing, let's say, a back squat or an overhead squat. And then from there, both arms overhead, and then stand up tall. Let's go again. Come back down. Heels come down. You're gonna reach up overhead. Back down, switch sides. Meet in the middle. Both arms overhead. And then stand up tall. We're gonna get one more of these. Toe touch. Sit down towards your heels. Push those knees out to the side, arm up in the air, bring it back down, arm up in the air, bring it back down, both arms up overhead, and you're gonna stand up, okay? So we're almost home now. So we've been kind of working from the floor and we're working ourselves all the way up. Those two squat drills that we just did worked on the very bottom position where people seem to have the most difficulty. But now we're gonna tie it all together and actually introduce a load to the squat to help you pattern the squat, okay? So I'm gonna grab my dumbbell right here. And you can grab a dumbbell, a kettlebell, whichever implement that you wanna use, really anything. And what I want you to do is really slowly lower yourself into the bottom of the squat. So it looks like this. You're gonna hold at that very bottom position for a couple seconds. And then come back up. Let's get a few reps of these. So the slow tempo really tells your body to really strengthen each range of motion, each degree of motion as you lower yourself down, and tells your brain that you're stable in each of those positions, and allows you to get lower and lower the more you do this. What it really helps to think about, keep going for me, is imagine that you've got like bands attached to your shoulders and they're all the way up. What you want to think about is pull yourself down against the resistance of those bands by using your hip flexors. And that's going to help you to gain a really stable squat. A lot of people tend to squat where they kind of just fold down like so, but by really being active, by really focusing on that eccentric and pulling themselves down against those imaginary bands, you're able to get a really stable, good, smooth squat. Let's get a couple more reps. Sink down as low as you can. You might want to squat pry down here if you'd like. And we'll get one more. All right, and that's it. And so that's the extent of our squat mobility patterning here. Now you can use this in any number of ways. You can use this right before you go into a squat session. You can do this a few times a week. You can do this every day. It really can be used in any application in conjunction with Lauren's 10 and 40-minute segments as well. What you'll notice is, like I said in the introduction before, we work kind of from the ground up. And then also, not only that, we worked your joints, we worked your muscles, and then kind of tie them all together. So I really hope this sequence helped you out. You can feel free to use bits and pieces of this. You can use the whole sequence before a squat day or just a few times a week, whichever one you prefer. But yeah, pick drills that really feel appropriate for you and your body and really challenge you in productive ways. But I hope it helped out. All right, thanks everyone.